Hello. Hi. How's everybody today? I got things set up all fancy here. Yay. Looks like a lot of you guys don't have cameras too, just mics. That's all right. We're getting it done. We get it however we need to. Hey, Zach. I was coughing before I unmuted, so try not to cough at you. I think it's an allergy cough, you know. We'll get started here in just a sec. Sure. I'm going to find a different link. I don't know why it's not showing it to me. Something has changed. I'll have to find it. I'll get it posted. I don't know where it's disappeared to. I'm looking for the link to the RD remote. This article, I don't think is taking us to the right place. Hang on. That's the one we want. I'll just go to it. Try to get this posted in case anybody needs to use it for our class. This is the URL to the remote desktop, the new client that works well. And I'm just going to post that to our Discord. We'll just get started then. I'm just doing stuff. On Discord, we have a new channel for TFS. I was posting messages and stuff, and I thought, well, we should keep all those separate. So you're welcome to put anything out there to add to it. I'll have to talk to Ethan if it doesn't work. Logan, if it doesn't work right, and get it set up. But anyways, this new channel, I hope you can see it. There's a new video from this morning, a student that was having issues connecting from home. security issues. So if you're having trouble like that, this video might be helpful. Let me see what I'm showing you. There it is. Okay. Get away from there. Let me turn off my video, just like you. Okay. We are going to look at, real quickly, a presentation about what's been going on. And last time when we met, you guys were so great. Everybody did such a good job at getting here and everything. And I kind of went through things that I know, as far as things that I know that are going on at OTC, but I wanted to kind of summarize that information and put it in writing, and I'll get this posted for you too. So some things that I know, but of course all these things could change, right? But some things that I know right now is no one's grade is supposed to go lower than it was at midterm. Okay, so I'm good with that theory. You might hear some discussions because I don't know, I guess some of the teachers aren't, but anyways, that is the plan. And OTC's administration says that at this point, they'd like to take a positive approach and assume that all students will do what's asked of them to the best of their abilities for the rest of the semester. So there should be no reason for a grade to go down based on all of the circumstances. So I would see that as an opportunity for grade improvement only, and that's what we want. The other thing is that pass, no pass option. I've had a few people email with questions about that. It is still in the works, but their plan is they're going to allow students to put a course on pass, no pass at the end of the semester. And if your grade was a 60% or above, that would mark that course with a P for pass. And if not, it would mark it with a not pass. Now, I think I told you when I went to college, you could always mark things as pass fail in that same way. And it was always recommended that you not do that with the class that was in your major. But things like, history or political science or things like that, maybe that's an option for you. So yes, does this give people a lot of ways out? You bet. But we know that our students aren't going to be looking for things like that. They're just looking for a hand up to get through this terrible situation. And that's what we want. Now, some resources that I know about. One computer lab will be open in Springfield at ITC. I think I've sent you enough information about the fact that that one won't be equipped with Visual Studio, but you could get to this remote desktop from one of those computers. So it would be kind of like the long way around, but you would be able to use that remote desktop to bring up Visual Studio. Now, if you have a computer that you can use, Wi-Fi will be available in the OTC parking lots. They're planning on boosting the signal, so it's something that should be good. Wi-Fi is also available at all of the Springfield Greene County Library parking lots. And I think they've been working on boosting their signal also, so hopefully. Oh, where are Kendall? Kendall, that should be for all classes because our online students have had to suffer through this in just the same way. We know everybody's been affected. My computer's doing crazy stuff. Let me stop it. Sometimes PowerPoint is just the biggest pain. I'll get back to it. All right, so libraries, Wi-Fi, and it's supposed to be pretty boosted. Again, you could use that remote desktop client if you need to. For our class, you need to have installed the Zoom client. I know you guys are already getting there. You could use it cloud-based if you don't want to install the client, a little bit slower. Discord, again, you can run it cloud-based if you don't want to install it. And we need Visual Studio. If you think of any other software that we need, let me know, because sometimes it's easy, to just install something and kind of forget that you had installed that. Now, our procedures, which you guys have already followed so well, we want to meet at our regular time, log your attendance in the daily form, and that link is in Discord, and I'll show it to you because I buried it a bit. Our Zoom session will be recorded and posted to YouTube, and that playlist is also pinned in Discord. If you watch the Zoom session later, go ahead and log your attendance. Put in the date that you watch it. I want to see that information. I will count you as present, and I just want to know when people are actually having an opportunity to do things. So that's why I'd like you to log that date. All right, so now I think I can see our chat. Try to get back to it. If anybody has any questions, the attendance link, let's find it. In Discord, in our C# channel, under this general, I've just been posting it there. So here it is. It's our today's attendance link. And again, I'll post that as part of the comment on YouTube for our video. Right now, Chris, I've got a different link for each day. That, in the end, might end up being too difficult. So I might change that. But for now, there is a different link for each day. So let me put that in this one. That'll be better. And I'll try to make sure to put that date in. So like I say, I will probably go to just one form for every day, but for right now, have a separate one for each day until we get started. Trying to get myself acclimated here. I think we should be able to have an app to do that, don't you? We shouldn't need it to be just a Windows form. I have to work on that. We'll get you guys started. Last time, we created a class, and our class was about audio CDs. We saw by using the class utility tools that we could create a class pretty quickly and pretty easily. Hopefully everybody saw that and you got a chance to experiment with it later. We are going to go back to that audio CD class and use it and create a full kind of Windows application. But first we have to figure out how to work with Windows forms. So yay, let's do that. I'm going to fix my slideshow settings so it see if I got that right. Finally. Okay, so we're going to start using Windows Forms. This to me is really exciting, and when I used to teach programming in high school, we always had a textbook that started out with Windows Forms. It just seemed like some students are able to understand things a little bit better when they can visualize it. We can't do that at the college level because you guys are expected to know about console programming. So we do a lot. You learn a lot of things using the console and doing some great console programming. But I still get excited when we're finally going to get to our forms because it does open up the door for some people who have maybe had a hard time seeing or visualizing how things work. Whenever we work with a Windows form, we're actually working with a particular namespace library that Windows supplies called system.windows.forms. Now this namespace has all of the classes that we'll use to create our GUI forms and display them. Now it's an entire subsystem of classes, and we use this for GUI or graphical user interface applications. And GUI applications and Windows applications, you know, are really the foundation of our computer use. With Windows Forms, we get the ability to do drag and drop construction of our user interface. We have lots of different controls available to us, like labels, text boxes, buttons, and all those important things that appear on a user interface. We also have some container classes like group boxes and the form itself. So if we start at the biggest, the furthest out option here, we have this class, control class, like a label. Whenever I'm working with the label class, I can instantiate an instance of a label, and that would make a label display on my Windows form. Now that label object is going to have properties, and properties have values, just like we have properties and property values in our classes. Our Windows Forms controls have the same kinds of things. We'll look at those. So here's a Windows form. First of all, when I look at a Windows form, it's familiar, right? I know how to use it. Why? Because Windows is consistent. It's always consistent. You know what to expect. You know, unless you're using some sort of special application, you're going to have a close button. You're going to have a restore button. You're going to have a minimize button. You're going to have your control menu over here beside some sort of title to that window or that form. Whenever we look at a window, that title bar can be controlled when we create an application using the text property of our form object. So just like our other objects that we create, we can update the values of those properties. Now our Windows forms, like I said, are consistent and they respond to user interaction, right? We know that if we click a button, something's going to happen. We created an event. HCI, their human computer interface, is that right? Anyways, we have mouse interfaces and joystick interfaces, and we can use all of those human component interfaces on our Windows form. When we're working with forms, some things that are really important in design. First of all, we want to make sure we align things. So we don't want, a tower of text boxes that are all jaggedy and crooked. We want proper alignment. We want to avoid clutter, make sure that things aren't all junked up. We need to be careful with color. Just like if we're creating a website, we want to make sure we're using colors that are appealing, that go well with each other. And we want to always be thinking of our target audience. So we can't use terms and wording that is familiar to us. We need to use the correct terminology for our audience. One application that you could think of that really brings this one home would be like Photoshop. If you're using Photoshop and as an early developer, you wanted to create a tool where people could pick colors, you could have come up with all sorts of different terms to describe that, right? You could have said the color board or anything. But in Photoshop, they realized that the actual artist term for what they want to create is the palette. And so that's why they refer to the color selection area, one area, as a palette. Our target audience matters. What are they going to understand and what are they going to want to see? So here's our form. We have this little simple Windows application. It has a few components. It is built using the form class. It has, we'll see our code just in a second, it has created an instance of a form named Windows 0. Then it's going to update the text property of that form to set the value to simple Windows application. So let's see if we can create this. Get that out of the way and let's open Visual Studio. And I want to create a new project. And we want to change the template that we've been using. In my new project window, I have selected Visual C#, and here in the middle in my template area, I'm going to choose Windows Forms app. Now I want to give this a name. So let's call it Windows 0 Form. Now at this point, I know I'm connected to TFS, so I could add my solution to source control. Make sure you're connected before you choose that. And then I'm going to click OK. Now, when I tell Visual Studio that I want to create a Windows Forms app, I do get a default blank form. Is everybody okay there? Were you able to create that project? You see this blank form here? Project window? Got it, good. We should be able to run this. So if I run this before we even put any code in, we should be able to see that our form behaves like, ooh, look at all this, like an actual Windows application. Let me get all this junk out of the way. Sorry for making you dizzy. There it is. So here's my form, and my form is my user interface. So my form area is going to contain all of the things that I want the user to see. So kind of like a web page, only it's an actual form. Now, before we add any code, we already have those Windows consistency things built in. We have our close button, our restore, and our minimize. They all work fine. Everything's working. We have our control menu from the old days in Windows where we can do the same thing without icons. And I can double click that old control menu to close. Alt-F4. So we have a lot of those Windows consistencies already built in to our form. But I want to look at our program.cs file here. Let's see what we've got. We're going to leave that one alone. So our program.cs file. Oh, sorry. Let's see what we got. We got some people having trouble. Okay. Tomas, can you show us yours and see what you've got? Go ahead and share with us. Let's see. Portable. I think we're going to have to find one for you. Let me see if I can find something. And you're running, you have 2017, right? I think they can, Madison. I'm not sure. Whoops. Sorry, I'm showing private messages to everybody. Oh my goodness, I'm going to stop. All right, so let's see. If you do not see the Windows Forms up, you can install it from the Create New Project window. Let's see. Choose Install More Tools and Features. So let's see. Glad you guys couldn't see that because I just showed you something bad. And luckily, you were looking at Tomas's computer and not mine. All right, Tomas, so let's see. There where you are, down at the bottom, is that Visual Studio installer there? Can we run it? The blue link over on the left. Yeah. He's trying to make us figure out French. Try that. Let's see if that's what I think it is. I don't know if that's, yeah, okay, it is. So it won't let you do anything. Oh, there it goes. While that's going, let's have you go ahead and connect to that RD Web utility. So bring up Chrome or Internet Explorer or whatever, and we can have you connect to that and show everybody how that works. And then that way you can use Visual Studio in that environment. Yeah. So Tomas, go ahead and bring up Chrome while that install is running. And let's go to remote.otc.edu. Here, I'm going to send it to you in the chat. Perfect. Okay. Now, if this will load. Yeah, we're probably killing your internet connection doing everything all at once. Did it load on that other tab? Yeah, it's going to take a long time. Yeah, look at that remote desktop. Look at that other tab that's remote. The tab right there did it load on that one? That first tab? Oh, okay, that was just your search, I see. So it's trying to load. Once it loads, it was pretty fast for me, but it doesn't look like it's doing it very well. Whoa, yay. I was just going to say, I don't think it's working. Now you want to do OTC /. So the slash that's above the enter key. And then your username. And then your password. Well, that wasn't too bad. Now open that CIS folder. And I would allow it to access your C drive and then run Visual Studio. Now again, as these things get loaded up, they're a lot faster once they get going, but it does take a little while to get it all started. See if it's going to work. About the same amount of time, huh? So ask me later. Now, the way this remote desktop is set up, it is supposed to remember like Tomas's answers. So it's not supposed to act like this first time every time. Oh, somebody said something important in the chat. Stop sharing so it can load faster. Yeah, for sure. So let's let him go ahead and load. It looks like it's going to work, and I think that everybody else can see that you can use this remote desktop. So if things are not working, there is an option. But I'm going to go ahead and take over that share. All right. And then let's go back to see where we were. Now, Dylan, you had a question. Show that again, just how to make the form. Okay, so what we did is in our file, new project, we want to find the Windows Forms app template and then just give it a name like you would if it was a console app. Okay. Now we named ours Windows 0 and we were just getting started looking at it. We see that we have a couple of .cs files. We have our form1.cs, which is our Windows form. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And we have our program.cs that we're used to. If we look at our program.cs, we'll see basically it has our main method. And in our main method, it uses this application class to run this form. There's our form. So that's all our program.cs file does now. So we're going to spend most of our time worried about our form1.cs. So let's take a look at that code. Now, when I click on my form1.cs, double click on it, right, it takes me back to looking at the form. I want to see the actual code. So I'm going to click to expand, and then behind that form, I see the designer.cs file. And this actually has the code to create components in our form. We don't need to mess with this code that's in the form designer. It's not something that we'll worry about. So I'm going to hide that back away and close it. So I want to double click on my form. And when I'm working with a form, I have some things that are a little bit different. In our code before, we've just worked with the console. So everything was input or output. Well, let's see, we've seen this first little form thing. So let me go back, jump around here, Anya, to our presentation. It's got a little bit different code for Windows 0. And in this code, we can kind of see things a little bit more compact. First of all, here we're creating a class called Windows 0, and this colon form coming after it signifies that this is a partial class and that it is built upon the Windows form class. So everything that the form class has, our class has too. It inherits that all. Now we have a constructor here. We say when somebody creates an instance of this Windows 0 form, set the text equal to this value. And then we have our main. And in this main, they create an instance of that form and then they run it. It's a little different than the code that was generated for us, but we can kind of see what's going on there. And no matter what, our main still starts the program. We create an instance of our form and then we display it. So it's a little different than console. And this is the stuff that I really wanted to get into. When we're working with a console app, we're always working top down. Our code is executed at the beginning of our main, and when we hit the end of our main, we're done executing. It's only a character-based display. It's hard for us to do any graphical type things. And we call the operating system for all of our input and output. When we're using Windows Forms, we change our processing mode to be event-driven. So now, instead of starting at the beginning of the main and working our way down, that form is going to be sitting in a process loop, just waiting for an event, just any sort of event to occur. Whenever an event occurs, the operating system will notify us, and our code will be contained within special methods called event handlers that will run based on those given events. So it's actually a lot easier than what we've been doing before. Now we have a lot of different controls available. What do we want to display? Do we want to display a button or a checkbox? Most of the controls are things that we've seen working with Windows, so they should be somewhat familiar. Everything that we can add to a form is a control, and our controls are available in the toolbox. We're going to drag and drop our controls onto the form, and that adds them to our user interface design. Here's our form in design mode. We're looking at it, and we can also add controls like labels and buttons and things to our form at runtime if we want to. Either way is fine, but we're working with all of those controls. Here's a text box control. It's just sitting here. As a text box, this text box has some properties. The properties of text boxes will be listed in the properties window that we can use when we're designing our form. So here, this text box, we see some properties like whether it has scroll bars and different things like that. We can change all those properties for our different controls. When we're working with our properties window, we can change what item we're viewing. So right now we're looking at our text box, but if we wanted to change properties for another control, we could change that in this drop-down form. In our properties window then, we're going to have a list of all of the properties and their current values. So let's find those things. First of all, I have my toolbox over here, and I want to kind of make it the way it was. My window is set to the default. So if I clicked on Window and Reset Window Layout, this is pretty much how it would end up. Pretty close. So I could do that if it was all messed up and I couldn't find anything. But the way things start up with the Windows Form project is we'll be looking at our form in design mode. And it's kind of a what you see is what you get thing. So whatever we put on our form is what'll display at runtime. My toolbox is hidden over here in this tab. So if I activate it, I could go ahead and pin it if I want it to stay active while I'm working on my form design. My toolbox contains all of the different controls that I can work with, and it has them in different groupings. So this top grouping, All Windows Forms, shows all of the controls that exist. Common controls are things that we would use more often. Containers are things that can contain other things. So different types of controls. I'm going to click on All Windows Forms. Okay, let's see. If you can't get the form to show in design mode, you got to find Solution Explorer and double click on your form. On your View menu, you should be able to do Designer also. That should take you to the same thing. Sure. Go ahead, Dylan. Whenever we were looking at our Form 1, if you expand it, yeah, something's wrong. Yeah, the Form 1 should be like under that designer thing instead of beside it. Will it let you drag it over there? We might have to create it again. No, under Form Designer 1. So can you drag it and drop it on Form Designer 1? Let's just delete that form. So right click on form1.cs. Nope, up one. Yeah, that one. Delete it. Now, right click on your project. Nope, project. Down one. There we go. Add. And we want to add a form. You see it down there? Yeah. And that's good. It's going to name it Form 1. So go ahead and just click Add. Now, let's double click on it. Yeah, it's still not right. Yeah, are you in 2019? I can't see it. I've got Zoom is telling me important information up there in that corner, so I can't see your screen. Let me see if I can move it around. No, just keeps that message right there. Yeah, it's not right. So let's do show me file new and project, and let's go see what other options you have. So we picked now, hang on. We need .NET Framework. So if you do install more tools and features there, I'm just afraid you're not the only.
It's in the list. I saw it.
Did you see it? Oh, we just missed it. Where is it?
There's a search function at the top, by the way.
I'm going to have to use that remote desktop to get to 2019 since my licensing won't work. And every time I mention it, they're like, you know, we have more important problems. Okay, I guess. I can believe that. That looks better. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Woohoo. Good job, you guys. Thanks. Very good. Because, yeah, we're just going to have some issues with our different versions and different installations. That's okay. All righty. Anybody else got weird stuff? Okay. So here I am. I'm sitting looking at my toolbox. And on my form, oh, before I use my toolbox though, I'd like to change some of the properties on my form. Right now, here's my properties window. When I look at my properties window, I'm not seeing very much. I'm just seeing properties for my form1.cs file. I want to see properties for the form, so I'm going to click on it. And now, see how it's changed to showing us form 1, the actual form. I want to change the text property. And we could do this in our code, but we can also do it from the properties window. And we're going to change it. Oh, let's say this will be our hello world. As soon as I pressed enter, it changed the title bar of my form. I could change other properties of my form here too if I wanted to. So you can experiment with those and try some different things. One thing that's really nice is since we're working with Windows Forms and we're all used to working with Office and everything, we have the same kind of resize handles as we're used to, so we can resize our form if we want. Now, whatever size we set this form is the size that it will display when the application is run. So we can use the resizing handles. We also could come to the size property. We could expand the size property to see the individual width and height, and we could change those manually too if we wanted to. Okay, so we've got our form saying something different. Let's run it. We should see our little Windows form saying hello world. Created our graphical user interface. Okay, so let's put a label on here. In my toolbox, I'm going to look around and find my label control. There are lots of ways I can add a control to the form. I can just click and drag and drop. That'll do it. I'll press delete if I don't want it. I can double click and that'll place the control up in the top left. And again, I can press my delete key if I don't want it. I'm going to put this label sort of like kind of in the middle. And if I put my label on the form, I can't really do any sizing of that control because the size of the label is going to be determined automatically. So let's fix this label up so you can see what I mean. First of all, the text for our label, let's make it say Hello world. And then I'm gonna change my font to make this label bigger. So I'm gonna expand my font property and I'll change my size. I'll try like 22 or something. That's pretty good, not too bad. Now I'd like to make it a little bit more colorful. So I think I want to change the for color also. Oh, the title of the form. Okay, to change the form's properties, you have to be looking at the form in your properties window. So I can either click on a blank spot on my form to go to the form, or I can use this drop down to go to my form. And when you're looking at your form's properties, change your text property, and that will change the title. Now to go back to our label properties, we can either click on the label or we can use the drop down and choose our label. That's the control we want to work on right now. So let's change our for color. I got my font size increased. If I want to change my for color, when I click on that property, it has a drop down. So I'll use that drop down. And the first set of colors are like the Windows system colors. So depending on your theme, it can be kind of boring, like mine. The web tab offers more colors and they're all named. So you can choose from that tab, or you can go to the custom tab and you can choose any of these customs, or you can create a new one by right clicking in a blank spot, and then it'll bring up the color editor and you can add that color. Did I do it? I just always get black. I'm not so good with colors. So I'm going to use a web color. I'll do something, I don't know, what do I want this time? I think I'm going to make it lime. Ooh, that's a terrible color. I won't do that. I'll do sea green, much better. Now let's run our application. We should be seeing our label and our title. Everybody matching up good. Okay, now I'd like to add a picture. I want an image, and I think I'd like just a happy face. So I'll see what I can find. I'd kind of like one that is maybe got some transparency behind it. I'll go with this one. Make sure he's not got a lot of heavy duty rights. I'm not going to sell it. Now, did you find it? Tomas, did you find your toolbox? If you're not seeing your toolbox, look at your view menu. Okay, so I think he's got it. So I want to save this. Now, if I were just putting this, in a presentation or something, I could just copy and paste. I can't do that because this is going to become part of this application. So I am going to save this image. Nope, it won't let you change the size of the label. You have to change the size of your font. I think people are messing with their labels still, which is just fine. I'm just going to wait for a sec. Okay, that was a sec, right? So I'm going to save this image. Save image as, and I'm going to save it just in my pictures folder. That's a good enough name. I like it, pretty long. So I like that happy face. Now I want to add him to my form. And like I said, I can't just copy and paste type thing because it's got to be a little bit more structured than that. So I'm going to use the picture box control, and the picture box control is used to display an image. So again, just like the label, I can add it to my form in many ways, but I can set the size of it. So when I click and hold and drag, I can size that picture box however I would like it. And when I release is the size the picture box will be. Now my picture box is sitting here, but it doesn't have any association with my image. You can see in the properties window that it's actually sitting at the image property, knowing that that's the property that usually needs to be set right away for a picture box. We have another option though too, besides using our properties window. For some controls, this quick task tool will display, and we can use that little arrow to bring up the really often used tasks for a given control. So for this picture box, the first often used task is choose image. So I'm going to choose that. And I want to add the image to my project. I want it to be part of my project resource file. So I want to make sure that's the radio button that's selected. And then I'm going to choose import. I'm going to find my picture. Now, looking at my resource editor, I can see that that picture has been loaded into my resources. And I'm going to click OK. Boy, he's a giant picture though, huh? Doesn't show up very well. So I could get out my Photoshop and do some resizing, or I could affect my size mode. The size mode that's chosen right now is normal, and we can see that's not working so well for my image. I could choose stretch image. That's not too bad. Now, if I choose auto size, that's going to make my picture box the same size as the image. So that should be pretty giant. Yep. I don't want that. So I'm going to Control Z. Go back, you stupid thing. Took it a while. And then I can try the others once I get that recovery done. So we didn't like auto size. That makes our picture box a different size. What about center image? Not too good. Zoom? Pretty good. So it works about the same as our stretch image. So you can try the different settings to get your image to display the way you like. Now, I should be ready to try running this again. Let's see if our image displays. It's got that checkered background instead of really being transparent. That's all right. Okay, who's got one? Anybody got some images displaying? I'm going to stop sharing. I want you to share with me and let me see what you guys have. Got any happy faces? There we go. Can you see the chat, Madison? Oh, no, that's not Madison. Whoever our awesome sharing person is, can you show those display options that we had for the image? Spooky flower. Clicked right on that arrow, and then the size mode settings are the ones that we were trying. Love it. See it? Okay, that looks great. Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Let's see some more. See what kind of pictures you picked today. What's it doing to you, Thomas? It's not showing you that little arrow tool. Share your screen with us. Let's see it. See it right up at the top? See the little arrow? That one. Now choose import. Nope. Yeah. Did you save one? Can you see it that way? No. There it is. Is that your local machine? So you should be able to get it from there. So go back to your import. And under network, do you see it? Do import. Now the file got saved to your computer. So we need to go to your C drive. Do you see that in the list over there? If you go back to import, scroll up. That's okay, click OK. And scroll up in that list that you're looking at. Look at that pictures link up there. Nope. I don't know where stuff is going when you save it. So you're just gonna have to leave your picture box on the form, but we're just gonna have to leave it without a picture for now until we can get them to help us figure out where stuff's going here. Because it's not quite right, because it's not letting you see that drive like it should. So we'll figure it out. Hang on after we close the session so we can try to get to it. We'll figure it out. But in the meantime, come along with us without a picture and we'll figure it out later. Silly thing. Okay. So we won't be messing too much with our picture. That's all right. As long as you have that picture box control, we'll be able to do stuff with it in our code. So does anybody else want to show one? I took over again without waiting. We'll have another chance here in a second. And I want to see some more. So I think what I'd like to do now is add a button to our form here. And a button is going to cause an event, right? Because if somebody clicks a button, that's an event. Something happened. So far, all the stuff that we've put here on our form just displays to the user. It doesn't do anything. Yeah, it is, Madison. That remote machine is not connecting them up properly to the file system. So we're going to have to get with our networking guys on it. Because when I used it, it was connecting to OneDrive, but it's not now. All right, yay, we can handle all of these problems. It's not a big deal. So I want this button, my event, to be something that makes something happen. So I'm thinking that since my application has this nice label in this picture box, maybe I want to start out when I display my form, having those be invisible, and then when you click the button, they show up. So let's make that happen. I'm going to resize here, and I'm going to add a button. Now I'm going to make this a great big button. Madison, Tomas, come with me. We'll figure out his file system problems later because we're going to have to save his project. Okay, so here's our button. I'm going to make it be one of those kinds of buttons that just goes all the way across, right? How's that? And with our button then, notice how as I'm moving things around, I'm getting some alignment tools, lines that are helping me keep things lined up on my form and all that great stuff. But I again could change the actual location using my properties. So if something isn't quite right, like this -4, I can fix that, make it the way I want. In my button, I think that I want some different text. So I'm going to make it say, click me for a message. Now, I think that I'd like that font to be a little bigger. So I'm going to find my font property and expand it. And I think I'll go like about 18 or so. And for my button, I want to use a different back color. We changed our fore color for our label. Let's change our back color for our button. So make your color whatever you'd like. I guess I'll go try to stay kind of greenish. And then make sure that your fore color is something that's visible with that back color. Kind of greenish. So in my button now, I've changed my properties to change my text for that message, and I've changed my back color and my fore color. So it didn't really change a lot, just a couple of things to make a big change. Okay, so now he said that this is an event, and an event lets us have an opportunity to associate code with our form. So if I want to add some code that I want to run when somebody clicks this button, I can just double click on my button and it'll put me in my edit code window. Now I can unpin my toolbox. I don't know why my picture box is still showing up. I'm going to try F5 to redraw. Nothing. It's just a fragment. It won't go away, but it's right there where stuff is. Okay, so we're going to look here at our button click event. So whenever we have an event procedure on our form, we're saying we have a method associated with one of our controls, and it's associated with an action on one of our controls. So with this method, you can see it's got that private keyword. We can only run it from within our class. It's void because it doesn't return any data. And then it's named button 1 because that's the name of our button on our form. And then Visual Studio will add an underscore and the type of event. So ours is a click event. So we know we're looking for the button 1 click event to find this code. Now we also have some parameters that are sent in by the forms control system. We don't usually need to worry about those until we're a little bit more advanced. So we said that for our application, we want to change our label. Now, let me back up here. I typed the keyword this, and whenever we're working in C#, remember that this keyword always refers to the active instance. So the active instance of our button 1 click event would be our form. Our form is the active, basically, object. And this button is a control on that object. So if I use this keyword, I can type the dot, and then IntelliSense will give me the list of all of the controls and methods and everything associated with this form, so I can make sure that I type my control names correctly. So I know I've got label 1, and I want to update the visible property. Right now, our label and our picture box are both set to be visible. We're going to change that so that in our code, we can make that happen. Okay, so right now, yes, Madison, it is. And it does. It'll keep complaining to you, too, about their names violating things. And it's a deal. It's an issue. Just have to kind of ignore it and say, well, it's a form. It works with different rules. So now, I am almost ready to run this, but I want to go back to the form and make these 2 controls not be visible when we start it. Otherwise, my code isn't going to do anything. So I'm going to go back to the design of my form, and I'm going to click on my picture box so that I'm looking at my picture box controls, and I'm going to change the visible property from true to false. I also want to do that same thing on my label. So I can click my label, and if I do, I'm going to be sitting on that visible property because Visual Studio always kind of reads our mind a little bit, and it's like, oh, I bet you're going to fix that one. I could also select both of these controls together to change that property. So I could choose my picture box, press my control key, and click to select my label, and then I could change that visible property for both of them. Okay? Now let's try it. So here's my application, my new button. Click me for a message, okay? And voila, there's our stuff. It shows up. Yep, it's very cool. Sure, let's get back to our code. Now, whenever we're working with our form space stuff, we can switch between the code and the form in some different ways. I have my tabs both open right now, so I can switch from design mode back to my code, but I can also do it as an F7. Yeah, F7 will also switch you to your code. So anywhere you're at looking at your form. So this is all the code that it took for us to do that for this first application. Now see if yours is working. Get it all going. Oh, Shift F7. Thanks, Madison. Said Shift F7 takes you back to the form design mode. I got to click on it though. And then F7 takes you back and forth. You guys have to share those keystrokes with each other because since I'm always demonstrating, I try to not use those magic keys and hide from people. Okay, you got it? It's working? Great. Let's do a couple more changes before we see some more. I'd like to change the title of our form. Oh, and let's clean up our using clauses. We saw from the presentation that we need system.windows.forms and we need system, but we don't need any of those other using clauses. What's the matter, Chris? You want to share? Let me stop. Okay, show us what's going on. That looks good. Okay, so let's close. Now on your form design, double click your button. And notice how it put in a new event procedure. So that means, don't just drag that code. Let me explain it. It's really important. I don't want your code dragged. I want it where it is. This new event procedure is wrong, right? Because we want it to be associated with the original button one click. So let's delete that new one, that new event procedure. And let's go back to our form design. Oops, click go to code. You guys are going to show each other everything. It's right there, good job. And just delete that line of code because that's from that one that we double clicked on. Good. Now looking at our form design, click on the button so that it is displayed in the properties window. At the top of the properties window in the toolbar, do you see the little lightning bolt? That little lightning bolt is another way that we can associate code with events. So he's just going to choose that button one click event that he already has created and say, this is what you should run when somebody clicks me. Okay, now click back on that properties up there in the toolbar. Otherwise, if you're stuck on that lightning bolt, you won't know where in the world all your stuff is. So yeah, go back to the one before that, the icon right before the lightning bolt. Yeah, for your properties. Okay, now you can go try your application again. Yay! So perfect. That was a really good example too. We have that happen a lot. Great. Now what? Okay, so everybody else is working okay? Anybody else having trouble? I'm going to share mine again because I would like to change the title on our form. So when we run right now, it says hello world on our form and click me for a message. So whenever we display the message, I think I want the title to say something else. Let's change that. Whenever I use this keyword, remember I'm referring to the actual form, and we said that the text property of our form is that title. So we'll just change it to something else. Okay, so now when I run, I should see my controls become active and my title should change. Woohoo! It's all working. Okay, everybody's good? I want to see some of yours because the next thing I want to do is kind of messes them up a little bit. So let me stop mine. Okay, let's see some.
All right, so this is mine. I just edited it, but it's not changing the button text when it's clicked on.
Oh, because we're changing the form text.
Oh, is that what, is it just?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So it changes like the title of the.
Uh-huh.
All right. Yep, that's mine. It's kind of goofy.
It's all right.
All right, yeah.
It did it. Nice. Looks good. Nice and clean. And I mean, I really like it that it's so easy to throw together a form. And you guys, this is why Windows forms have been popular for so long, that like Madison said, they don't exactly follow naming conventions of C#. And we keep using them no matter what, because they're just so handy and so easy to use. So how would we make it update the button text? Good question. We've got everything right here. What would we need to do? We'd have to start out with our control. So we can use the this keyword or not use it. Either way is fine. And we want to change the text property of our button 1 control. So what do you want to make it say? Dots. Yup. Stuart was telling you how to do it. Good job. Let's make it some dots. We see our text is gone. Now there's other things we could do there too, right? Get me all sidetracked, but we could disable that button if we don't want people to click it anymore. We could do all sorts of different things. Let's do something else though. I think that instead of having dots show there, I wanna, well, I'll leave that with our dots, but I think I want our label to add something to our label each time, like a counter. Let's run this. If I click the button the first time, all sorts of things happen. But if I keep clicking it, nothing happens. Like I say, that we might want to disable it. So let's make it where something happens. I want to create a counter. So let's make that a class level variable. And remember, whenever we create a variable that's a class level, it's global. I'm sorry that that thing won't go away. So there it is. We're going to create this variable. I'm going to go down below it. And we just want an integer. Let's name it count, and let's initialize it to 0. Now in our button 1 click code, we can put an if statement. So if my count is equal to 0, I'm going to do all of these things. Mess that one up. There we go. And display all of our stuff. Okay, so we're only going to do that the first time. Let's do something though the other times. If it's not the first time, let's update the text property of our label. I think I just want to add to it. Let's add our count. Oh, we needed a space or something too, don't we? Yeah, Logan, you want to double click on that button in the form designer to create that click event. or things will never work right. Okay, now that we've got our if statement in, we've created our variable. Let's run this. So I'm going to click from my message the first time. Everything looks good. Now if I keep clicking, how come I'm not seeing it? Let me double check I've done something different because it worked before. Oh, what do you think it is? Do we need to add to that counter? That's what it is. My counter is staying 0. So I'm going to add to it, logic error there, and run again. Now I should see some magic happen. First time, second time, and now we start seeing our execution number added to our label each time. So that gives us a chance to just see how we can update that label. We can use a variable if we want. So whenever we're working with forms, all of the stuff that we know about C# already is going to be used. It's just that now we get to add on this new layer of, making things more graphical, just easier to work with, friendlier for us, friendlier for users. So Logan was asking, what could we do to just clear that whole label? You guys know, right? I just wouldn't add. And then we would just change it every time. So we have the power to make it happen really easily. But now remember, that's because we're in this different paradigm. We're not just doing that top-down processing like we were with our console apps. This event procedure gets run every time that button gets clicked. So however we change our environment is going to be impacted with our event procedure. We also could have created a hidden counter on our form to keep track of that count for us instead of creating a variable. And people will do that quite often, create hidden things on their form, because those form objects, if you notice, are basically instance variables. We can access them anywhere in our code, and you'll see that a lot more next time when we do some more event procedures. Okay, last class somebody asked about Windows forms and websites, and we are in such a transitionary time, so exciting. And what we would see in a lot of companies right now would be that their front-end applications, the things that the users interface with, would be HTML, CSS, JavaScript type applications. When those applications need resources from the server side code would be C#, behind the scenes, back end kind of stuff. Windows forms only run on Windows. So that's why we couldn't do like the .NET framework, because they're not supported. I mean, I can't run a Windows Forms app on a Linux machine using .NET framework. They're trying to get things to that point. There are other things that are up and coming from Microsoft that are going to allow C# code to be on the front end of those kinds of applications. So you guys are going to see a lot of changes. Microsoft has opened things up to be open source. So .NET framework is supposed to have more open source code than an Apache server. We don't know. They do. But there are a lot of things that you will be able to do with this as time goes on. Throughout, no matter what, if you're working with users who are only working with Windows, that's their primary application, like corporate people, then Windows Forms are the way to go. But we do see these as kind of becoming the older way of doing things. But this base of knowing how to do Windows Forms is going to serve you well, no matter what. Okay, we're going to like wrap things up. Anybody got any questions before we do? Make sure you save this to TFS. Now, there's another couple of things I want to do before we're all done. So if everybody's got this and it's all working, let's go back to our form and add one more button. I'm going to add a button down here. You can tell I really like my toolbox to be pinned. And I'm going to grab a button. I'm going to make it a little smaller, but it's going to be one of these giant buttons also. And this button, I'm going to change my text property to just be pop up message. Yeah, we'll cover a wide variety of topics, that's for sure. Let's change I'm going to change my fore color to match a little better. I know you guys spend the whole semester doing all these cool things in web dev, and we finally get to do some cool stuff. I'm glad. So in my pop-up message, I want to create a new event procedure for this button. So to do that, I'm just going to double click that button. And now here's my button 2 event procedure. In my button 2 event, I want to use a message box. So you guys can see how that works. And my message box is a special control class. And as you saw, it didn't have very many methods. Usually I want to show one. And when I use a message box, the first parameter I'm going to pass to it is text that I want displayed in this message. Is that how you spell that thing? Corona. I can tell I'm not a Corona drinker, huh? Okay, we'll just say hi to that thing. Well, no, it's a different message. Okay, so I added my button. I double clicked it to create my event procedure. And then I'm going to add my line of code here to show the message box. So let's run it. Click on pop-up message. So this is what a message box looks like in Windows by default. And you can use those. They're pretty handy for a lot of different things. Okay. Just wanted to show you a little bit how to do that. Now let's look at Canvas. I think I have it open like 17 times somewhere. And the assignment that's due tonight is this Hello World part due. And again, I'm going to be flexible on due dates. This is a pretty easy assignment. What I want you to do is create a Hello World application. We kind of created one, but I didn't name it Hello World specifically because I want you to create your own. So create a Hello World application and check it into TFS. Do some exploring, try some things, mess with some stuff. But other than that, you don't have to turn anything in. It'll just be 10 points for you having a Hello World project in TFS. So that's all we need to get going on that one. All right. Does anybody have any questions then before we finish up? Yay. Okay, you guys, I'm going to let you go, and I will see you on Monday right? Today, yeah, I have to look at my phone. Yes, it is Wednesday. So where to put the new variable? In the message box, the button, I just put it down here. And in the code, we double clicked on it. Notice how if you double click and it's properly wired, it'll go straight into your event procedure. And then there's the code that we added to our event procedure. Does that work? The variable for your counter went all the way up here, right under your class statement. So just like the classes that we create, we want those data fields to be right under the class statement. That's it. For TFS, the best quick reminder is our new awesome TFS channel. Can you guys see that? Chris, can you see this TFS channel? Because I just created it and I know security might not let you see it. I want to make sure you can. But this video on TFS connection is great because Jacob, the person that was working on this, had some trouble in connecting to TFS. So we had to go through the Windows utilities to disconnect his account and then reassociate it. So the video really has some great information in it. You can fast forward a little bit too if there's anything in there that you don't think is necessary for you. Also on our TFS channel, here is the TFS URL and our connect to TFS documentation. Okay, so all that should be there. So we want to use Team Explorer. Click Manage Connections. Connect to a project. And then on this screen, we had to add the TFS server if you haven't added it before. When we do that, we type in that HTTPS CIS-team.otc.edu URL. Mine takes way too long to connect to show you guys because it'll be like 10 minutes. I don't know what the deal is. But then you're going to find your user account and click connect. So again, all of it should be in that video, and especially if you have any trouble. Okay. Do make sure you can get to TFS to get this one in there. And like I said, if it's not in there tonight, I promise I'm not going to be there at midnight checking. So you're okay. Okay, so I'll see you Monday. We'll talk about our event procedures a lot more, get a lot more into our code. But do as much experimenting as you can. Try to make things pop up and do different things. So have a great rest of the week, great weekend, and I'll see you Monday.